House of Hammer is an American documentary streaming television miniseries directed by Elli Hakami and Julian Hobbs. The documentary revolves around the life of American actor Armie Hammer, who were involved in 2021 in various accusations after several complaints from the actor's ex-girlfriends. The three-part series premiered on September 2nd, 2022 on Discovery+. In March of 2021, a woman who initially came forward with the abuse allegations on Instagram identified herself and accused Hammer of violently raping her in April of 2017. The Los Angeles Police Department subsequently confirmed that he was on the subject of a sexual assault investigation which had been set in motion a month prior. Hammer's legal team had denied the allegations. The LAPD concluded an investigation in December 2021 and sent its findings to the LA County District Attorney. The case was reportedly weak and unlikely to lead to charges. In April 2022, Variety published an article where Hammer's attorney, Adrian Brettler, released a statement regarding the abuse allegations. He said there was never a case. A lot of people think that there was. There was never really a lawsuit, never a criminal proceeding. The media were obsessed with the matter. It never turned into litigation or into criminal charge against anyone. That was the misconception. In the early days, it was a pandemic. Everybody was at home reading all of these tweets. And here you have a well-known handsome actor being accused of salacious, kinky interactions with women. It captured the public's attention, but was completely blown out of proportion, to the extent that there was never anything in court. There wasn't a matter for me to handle other than to help him manage his image in the press. The 2022 documentary miniseries House of Hammer revolves, though, around these allegations. And in September of 2022, it was revealed that Armie Hammer's estranged wife had allegedly been using a friend's email to communicate with journalists. And now former friend of Chambers, who was allowed access to Chambers' email, provided emails and screenshots of her text messages to CNN, which show that Hammer's ex allegedly posed as a woman and sent messages to press outlets using her account. CNN had also obtained screenshots of the text messages between Chambers and her former friend discussing the impersonation. Now, like with most documentaries, you have to approach this from a subjective point of view. Now, of course, on the one side you have Armie Hammer, who of course will deny the allegations until his dying day. But on the other side, you have a lot of women coming forward now, all saying the same thing, that this man went a bit too far and crossed over into the line of abuse. The first episode's key interviewee is Dallas entrepreneur Courtney Vazonovich, who says she connected with Hammer via Instagram in late 2019. She claims that when she finally arranged to meet him in the summer of 2020, their interactions were disturbing from the start. According to her, Hammer left notes reading, "I'm going to bite the fuck out of you," and after turning up at her apartment to find her out of town. She says, "I chose to look at it as more flattering than concerning." Their first sexual encounter left her traumatized, and so she distanced herself from Hammer. Yet here we hear the claim that he tracked her phone's location and turned up on a moped to beg for forgiveness. She recalls, "I thought it was romantic, and I thought he was fighting for me." Further meetings, Vazonovich says, left her with visible handprints and deep bite marks on her body, which she claims Hammer encouraged her to wear like trophies. She says, "I was interpreting that like love. Looking at it now, it makes me sick." Now, at first glance, Vazanovich's story can seem somewhat naive in its retelling. Here you have a successful woman who's now taken in by the charm and good looks of Armie Hammer. In saying that, though, her account appears to be courageous and valuable because it demonstrates how, if true, anyone could be vulnerable to coercion and abuse. She comes across as smart, articulate, and a successful woman who says nevertheless she ignored what she now believes to be the warning signs that she should have read. In January 2021, another woman, known simply as Effie, went public sharing what she claimed were screenshots of messages from Hammer, revealing his sinister, controlling behavior and cannibalism fetish even. Vazonovich says she recognized the pattern, and the documentary also talks to two further women who claim to have had similar experiences with Armie Hammer. The documentary goes further, though, and shows you some social media videos that, of course, Armie Hammer posted, namely of him drinking and driving, or letting a woman wait on all fours on his bed as he remarks how wonderful his hotel room is. Now, since the making of this documentary, Hammer has fallen foul to the cancel culture. His agent and publicists have dropped him, and the movie's roles have evaporated. And through the power of social media and a collective of women coming forward, all pretty much telling the same story, Armie Hammer's acting career has literally died a death. As the first episode ends, we see a TikTok user who went viral simply by finding a copy of Casey Hammer's self-published 2015 memoir, Surviving My Birthright, and summarizing chapter by chapter her account of abuse and excess in the Hammer family, and her suggestions that the rot had been festering for generations. It's now where the documentary delves further into the House of Hammer, as it were, with Casey Hammer now being interviewed and guiding you through the trepid past of her family. The dynasty is traced back to Armie Hammer, Armie's great-grandfather, who was the main stakeholder in Occidental Petroleum and was quietly one of the 20th century's most powerful men. We hear how his huge wealth and lack of qualms about bribery and blackmail enabled him to do whatever he wanted. Armie had links with Brezhnev, dined with Ronald Reagan, and he was convicted illegally of donating to Richard Nixon's Watergate fund, but later was pardoned by George H.W. Bush. It was astounding to me to realize his close connections with the then Prince Charles and Lady Diana. Prince Charles even intended to make Hammer Prince William's godfather, but Princess Diana disliked the idea. In the 1980s, Hammer gave strong financial support to Prince Charles's projects of nearly £40 million and free use of Hammer's Boeing 727. Hammer was known to have close Soviet Union links and would throw glittering galas and PR drives that meant Occidental largely got away with the 1988 Piper Alpha disaster, which happened at one of its rigs in the North Sea, killing 167 men. Armie Hammer was for a man whom money bought impunity and the key to the world. When asked, "Why don't you run for United States presidency?" he was quoted as saying, "There's not enough power in the position." His life and story were combined with that of an unwanted bitter son in Julian, who ran his LA home like a house of ill repute, as he would throw huge drug-induced parties with people having sex everywhere, while he would brandish his weapon, shooting at people randomly, including his own daughter. Julian was even accused of murdering someone. His own son Michael, Armie's dad, would grow up determined to destroy Julian's legacy and rebuild the Hammer name in his own image, and later would bring him into conflict with a young Armie Hammer himself. Casey Hammer, Armie's aunt, mentions watching the show Succession and said she had to turn it off as it really magnifies a million times literally what her family is. And in many ways that's what this show does. It highlights now the Hammer family, a family who have seemed to have gone under the radar, using their money and influence to buy their way out of most situations. And this documentary highlights the divide between money and the rise of the Me Too movements, and how the rich and powerful, who still have sway in society, can't necessarily get away with everything they used to before. This story recaps the disgraced actor to being a product of the extraordinary toxic privilege and pitching his downfall as a battle for the ages, the corrosive influence of old money versus the wild new media. It's a fascinating look into this most complex and enigmatic of families. It's well produced with convincing interviews, but at the end of the day you have to approach it from a subjective matter, as I said, this is still approaching it from one side of the story. What it does do, though, is shine a light on the Hammers, even if it isn't always in the most appealing of tones. Fascinating, subjective, and well made. The House of Hammer gets an 8.5 out of 10.